wanna spend my life with you all day. You say that you love me, is it true? You say I'm the only one that's all for you. Okay, make me feel away, make me feel away. Shorty so damn dangerous, fuck me like I'm famous, yeah. I've been so impatient, so glad that you made it here. Took my dick and faced it, shorty going crazy, yeah. Thought that you was playing, told me spray it everywhere. She want me to take it, what you tryna do? Shorty said she...
Yo, I see that you're an exclusive chef. Share your background, tell me how you got that started, how you learned how to cook.
Well, my background really started in church, so it had nothing to do with food at all. The only food that I did, consume what was around was just my grandmother and my mom. They made food, or people at churches made food. So for me, my story actually started with music, because I played drums and I played percussion, I played trumpet. So I got into the whole music thing because my mom was a pastor, right? Mm-hmm. So growing up in church, my dad owned a construction company. My mom, she's a pastor. I went into that realm of thinking that I would just do the construction like my dad. Like, oh man, I'm gonna lay concrete, I'm gonna build homes, I'm gonna do this and do that. So as far as like cooking wise, never a thought, right? Mm-hmm. So I got into music, and then being into music for all those years in church, I started meeting a lot of people. So then I thought, like, you know what? I'm gonna just go on tour. So I'm gonna be this touring musician. I'm gonna go around the world. I'm gonna play music, right? What happened was, my mom, she didn't want to pay me. So I'm playing in church. So I got all the homies where they play, like the whole city. You name them, they the homies, right? So they all playing, and they playing in these churches. They get paid. Right. So I'm not getting paid. So my nickname in music is, they call me Sweets, right? Mm-hmm. In music. So they like, Sweet, your mother don't pay you? I'm like, nah, my mom, she was like, nah, God gave you a gift. I'm not paying you. I'm not paying you for what God gave you, right? So I'm like a little heated. I'm like,
I need some money.
I need money. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I need money. I want clothes. I want this. I want that. So it went to the point where it was two members of my church that was actually working for KFC at the time. Mm-hmm. And they came to me and said, hey, you should learn how to cook, just randomly, right? And then I was thinking like, well, I do need money. So I was like, all right, cool. So they invited me, they told me to come to KFC to kind of see it. I'm like, I already know what a KFC is, right? Mm-hmm. So what happened was, in the time frame of me not actually making it down there to see it, they ended up going to a place called Northrop and Grumman, which is in Aviation Boulevard here in Maryland. So I went there, and then I had an interview with the chef, Daphne Miles. I'll never forget, she was my first chef. She told me what I know. She told me the beginning of what I know, right? She started me off. So I ended up going down there, had an interview, and I told her I wanted to cook. Right. And she was like, well, you never cooked before. You know what I mean? Like, how are you gonna be a cook if you never cooked? So I just spun the question and was like, well, no one ever teaches me, how would I ever learn?
Please say that.
So she was like, she thought about it, and then she was like, yeah, you're right, but I still can't hire you as a cook. So I didn't get hired as a cook at that time, right? But she hired me as a utility worker, and back then the utility worker was a dishwasher. Yeah. They put the food away, all the receiving, all that, and then they, took trash out, the whole nine. Mm-hmm. So the environment was a cafeteria environment. So I ended up, like, being a dishwasher. I was taking trash out. I was refilling all of the silverware, the napkins, stuff like that, like all the dirty work, So after maybe, I would say, a month of me washing dishes, getting killed, mind you, in a dish pit. Like, I didn't even sign up for this. I'm from around the way. I think I'm cool. I'm like, nah, man, I'm not washing no dishes. So, and I used to ride my bike to the subway. Okay. And then I used to get off at the light rail. So it was a whole bunch that went on with that. So I'm down there, I'm like, all right, cool. So a month went by, she came to me like, Saon, you still want to learn how to cook? And I was like, yeah. So she was like, go ahead and change your apron, blah, blah, blah. So what happened was, an old lady that was there, she was the one that did all the prepping. She did all of, like, the deli prep, she did the salad bar, she did all that kind of stuff, right? So I was always watching. And that one day when the lady called out, she needed my help. So that one day, that's when it all started. So I ended up learning how that day to cut a tomato with a knife. Like, I've never, in all of the years being home with my mom, I wasn't allowed in my upbringing to use a knife in the kitchen. We weren't even allowed to really be in the kitchen at all coming up.
Right.
So that was the first time that I held a knife to cut a tomato. Like, wow, okay. And so she, at the end of the day, she was like, "Oh, you did good. Thank you, whatever." So I went back to dishwasher. Probably another month went by. The same lady called out again, and then that time I learned how to make tuna fish. I learned how to make chicken salad in one day. I learned how to make pasta salad, right? So now I'm hype. I'm like, bro, I learned how to cut tomato, onions, and lettuce, and now I'm like making tuna fish and chicken salad and all that. And then what happened was that day I got a compliment that, a couple customers were like, "Oh, this tuna fish is really good today. Like the chicken salad, really good." And then it came to, like, she actually told me, like, "Hey, you got a couple compliments today about the tuna fish and chicken salad." So I was like, "Really?" So I'm like, I'm back on the subway, like I'm on a light rail going back home, and I'm on the subway, I'm on my bike, like, yo, that kind of felt cool, you know what I mean?
Cooking.
And then what happened was that opened up the whole door. Unfortunately, the older lady, she ended up passing away, but that opened up the door for me to be able to kind of like get into that position that I always wanted. But it had to take time for me to get there. So Daphne Mom, she taught me like how to properly cut everything. How to hold a knife, how to julienne, how to dice. And then from there, my journey went from me being at Northrop and Grumman, like the cafeteria environment with Sodexo Marriott. It went from me going there to the Admiral Fell Inn, which is the hotel in Fells Point in Baltimore.
That's a dope spot.
That's where I learned my fine dining everything. And I've never been to culinary school to make it clear, but I'm a very spiritual person, right? So I really felt like my mom, she didn't want me to leave her because I'm the youngest of 9.
Oh wow.
And being a baby boy, my mom like, "Nah, you're not going to Lyon, France for no culinary school. I grew up in Warburg Junction. She like, you're not leaving my sight because people get killed every day. So I wanted to go to Lyon, France. I wanted to go to Hyde Park, CIA in New York. And she was like, no. So what happened was I just really feel that God allowed it to be that my journey from me not being able to go to culinary school like I wanted to, He allowed me to be in a culinary school, like just in the trenches,
Yeah.
So Admiral Fell Inn, I went there, and that's where I learned all my fine dining. And it was so crazy because in the 4 years that I worked at Admiral Fell Inn, I worked under 4 different chefs.
Oh wow.
In 4 years. That is a bachelor's in culinary,
Yeah.
right? So literally, it was 4 different styles of cooking that I learned in the years that I worked there. So I worked under a female chef that was from Baltimore, that she was all about organic. Then I worked for a male chef that he went to CIA, and he just was like a stickler, like a Hell's Kitchen, like straight up. Then I worked for another chef that was from DC that really wasn't in the kitchen a lot, but he was good with numbers, but you had to fend for yourself to figure it out because he wasn't there for any direction.
Right.
And then I worked for a chef that was from Belgium that taught me like the real deal of like the French way, you know what I mean? It was a segue because another chef he brought him in. So it's kind of like I had 5 chefs in 4 years. But the chef Luke, he's from Belgium. That's where I really understood, like for real cooking. He taught me how to tie asparagus up in 5s and blanch it in salted water like the ocean. He taught me how to like properly peel vegetables, where I had to peel vegetables eye level. I had to straighten up my feet because if you cut stuff with your crooked feet, your cut will be crooked if your feet aren't lined up. And it's all about the equilibrium, like when you're just thinking about, what makes sense. He taught me that, and it was all about food. So I learned how to do garnishes, I learned how to properly sear. I learned how to break down a pigeon. I learned how to break down guinea fowl, like all these different birds and games and all that type of stuff, and I learned flavor. So after I left Admiral Fell Inn, I worked at a restaurant called Hamilton's there. I was like, yo, I love this. Like, it was really me, you know what I mean? So I went from there, I went to an old folks home called Charlestown Village. I learned about how to cook for retirement community type people and all of that, and I learned about that. So that was another thing under my belt. I worked at Wendy's before I did all of that, like on the grill, so I learned about that. And then I did my own thing, as a personal chef, private chef, and then I worked at my mom's church. So I was a chef at the church. So it was kind of like I played music, I'd get out the drums. I go downstairs, I throw my stuff on, I'm like, everybody like, you're the man. I'm like, they done shouted all day at church, and I was holding the beat down, and then they went downstairs like, oh my God, I'm so full, this food was good. I'm thinking like, bro, I'm doing everything. Right. So I was like inspired, like, bro, I am that guy, you know what I mean? And after that, it got really, I really took it serious, like I had people. I went to a restaurant at Owings Mills called Linwood, and that's where everything really changed even more. Mm-hmm. So I thought that Chef Luke gave me my start. He gave me the whole understanding. So when I got to Linwood, it was kind of like, I was a young kid, I was like 24, 25, and, I just needed a job, because I had my own catering company. And then, they laughed at me like, you got a catering company, you're too young for that. And I'm like, nah, I just need a job. You know what I mean? My catering company went down. I was doing great. In 2 years, I was like, bro, in 2 years, I made $30,000 in 2 years. I'm like, yo, I'm killing it. Mm-hmm. But I was on my own. What I mean? I was young, thinking I was doing it. And then I hit, rough times, And I went to Linwood, I needed a job. And I landed a line cook position at night. And when I started just, I was on Saute doing my thing, bro, it just got to a point where I was so motivated, where I was just creating specials and creating dishes and creating this, and they were like, oh my God, you're really good, and I ended up getting the keys to the restaurant. I started opening up the restaurant. I started, being like the AM chef. I started doing specials. I started making the soups. I started doing a demi. I started doing orders when the executive chef at the time, when he would go on vacation. Then I started doing tastings where if anybody would come in and they wanted to have an event, a party, a wedding or whatever, I would do their food specifically for them. And it just got to the point where like, this guy's really good, you know what I mean? And then they just kept giving me different things, and next thing I know, I end up, being the executive catering chef at Linwood's. And then I was running all the big parties, like all the exclusive people that you can think of. I was doing the parties for, spearheading that. All the big schools, doing all the events for that. Left Linwood's, and then I'm going to Copper Kitchen, where Chef Kevin Miller, a really great guy. So Copper Kitchen is a Baltimore-based catering company as well. Mm-hmm. So I went there, did that, and then got my feet wet, helping him, continue to do some great food in the city, And he was actually a competitor of Linwood's at the time, but I would never think that I would work for Copper Kitchen. Went to Copper Kitchen, loved it. I still love those guys down there. And, still get my feet wet. And then, boom, right now, Black Swan, just being executive chef there, chef partner there, have some great people, great team. And, just being able to develop some things with Black Swan.
And just listen to your story. It's like, right. God will prepare you for your purpose, even in spite of your plan. So it's just, like listening to that whole thing, it's like I'm going through some things right now, trying to figure some stuff out. So just hearing that is like, yeah. Sometimes you gotta give your plan up for what I ask for you. So that's.
I feel like the story belongs on Netflix. One of those little words.
I mean, we can make that happen. And honestly, though, it's a lot more. It's a lot more in the story that I'm not sharing, and not for no rhyme or reason, but just because, I want to be respectful with time. But it's a lot more because, you got to think, man, like, I grew up in a house with both of my parents, but I still was in the streets as well, and I still was in church, and then I was still trying to find my career path. But then I thought one thing was supposed to be, like you said, that my plan was like, I was going to tour the world because my homies were. Right now they're touring the world, like my homie Usher and Janet Jackson and Demi Lovato, and you name any band you can name of, like I know them, and we all started at the same time. So that was my plan, like, oh yeah, it's right here. Like we gonna all be together. We gonna call each other like, yo, where you at? I'm here, all right, cool, bet. But that was my plan. And my plan was to go to culinary school. And my plan was to do this and do that. Right. But like when God has it set up that way, not being too spiritual, but when he has it set up that way, it's kind of like, yo, you flow. You know what I mean?
That way. Yeah. It's definitely crazy you say that, because that right there is inspirational right there. Like, even people don't really know, if you're not from Baltimore, Walpole Junction, the trenches. So even just to make it out of there on the west side of Baltimore, it's just, It's different. But I want to change gear. I want to talk about a little bit about Simone's background. I know that Charm City Table, right?
Yep, Charm City Table.
Let's get into it.
Yeah, so I'll try to keep it pretty brief. It's not, it's not nearly as inspiring as over here. But I was born here in Baltimore. I was mostly raised in Woodlawn. And it was like, at the time, like Woodlawn's very different now, but at the time it was like cute farmland, but over here was like black suburbia. It was very much like everybody had like their single family home and all their kids. And it was like I always say, like looking back, like when I left Woodlawn, I was like, Woodlawn like sucks. Well, it's so boring. There's nothing to do here. But like looking back, it was really cute, like a really cute black suburb. Everybody, like parents were like one generation out the city. So it was like, city people raising county kids, if you could imagine. It was like a lot of like, get in where you fit in kind of culture there. But it was also like a lot of opportunity. Like parents were giving their kids opportunities that they didn't have, and my family was the exact same way. So like I would say my parents, in general, like we always, and that's black people in general, we always celebrate around food. We always, birthdays, cookouts, anything, like it's always like a big food culture, and it was the same for my family and my extended family. So that's how I like had my love for food. Like I always thought my mom was the best cook. Even like my aunts and uncles, like I loved going over their house for food. And we used to brag, people just brag about whose family got the best food, who makes the best this and that. So I was always like kind of doing that. And then I would say I developed like my love for like going out to restaurants and things like that. It's probably like in college. So I, lived in Baltimore, raised here, and then I went to school in Richmond, Virginia. And there, like, it was a very small city, which was a good environment for me at the time. And they had a cool little food scene, and at the school you could use like your student ID or whatever to go some places, like, your swipes translated to dollars at little local restaurants and stuff. So I started doing that like just for fun. I had a bunch of stuff left over because I love to cook. So I wouldn't like always go to the cafeteria, I would just use it for restaurants. So I would just try new places, and I loved trying different foods. I mean, I love my family, and like I said, I love their food, but they would cook the same thing. So I didn't and we didn't eat out a bunch. Like it'd be IHOP, Golden Corral, like City View, if y'all ever been there out in Woodlawn. So like trying like Mediterranean food and like, I don't know, Indian food and all of that, Thai food, that really started in Richmond. And I was just like, this, like I love this. Like I did not know there were like so many options. And finished my time at VCU, couldn't find a job, so moved back to Baltimore, and I got a job in Harbor East. And in Harbor East is like right downtown, right? It's like between two neighborhoods, so lots of food and drinks and bars over in Fells Point, lots in Harbor East. It was kind of developing, but it still had a lot, and then you could go to the Inner Harbor. And a bunch of me and my coworkers, we just, young, we just liked hanging out. We would go to happy hours. And happy hours is like where I found out Baltimore had like a better food scene, I felt like, than Richmond. Like we had a lot of options at a lot of price points. Happy hour, you could eat for super cheap at like the fanciest restaurants. So I was like, oh my goodness, Baltimore has like, they have this really cool, like vibe, cool food scene. But it was probably like 2 years after like I discovered that, and I was going out with coworkers and stuff, that I started Charm City Table. I like transitioned from a job from Harbor East, same company, but it was out here. It was out in Columbia, Maryland, and I couldn't go out as much. The job was crappy, but we got off super late, and sometimes we worked overtime, and I wasn't getting off until like 9. And so I was like, I really miss going out. And I had all these pictures and stuff like that from when I used to go out like twice a week, 3 times a week. To these different restaurants. So that's kind of how I sat down and just like wrote it all out, and thought of the idea for a food blog, and that helped me. Like I was using those pictures from like the times I went out, but then it kind of motivated me to like get up after work when I was tired and like irritated to actually just go out and try some new spots to keep up with it. And then it kind of took off from there. Like I just I really kept going because it was a lot of fun and people responded to it really quickly. I remember when I started, there were like probably 2 big food bloggers, and the rest I kind of met along the way. They had like smaller platforms, but I was like, nobody's really food blogging here. Like, this is an opportunity, and like I said, it just kind of took off from there to where now it's been, going on 5 years in May, so.
Did you have any background in writing before blogging, or you just jumped into it?
Yeah, I don't really, I mean, I've always considered myself a good writer. My education, my mom is, if I talk about my educational background, yes, because I was homeschooled for middle school. My mom was an English teacher, and a creative writer. So it was a lot of heavy reading, a lot of heavy writing from like 6th to 8th grade. High school, I went to Catholic school. I went to a school called Institute of Notre Dame that just shut down over in East Baltimore. And, they were heavy on the writing. Like, we were writing 10-page research papers for most of my classes, 10 to 15 pages.
Wow.
So like, I always was good at writing and did a lot of it. So it was just something I was used to. I wouldn't even say it was something that I loved.
Naturally.
Yeah, it just came naturally. I'd done a lot of it. So I just didn't have any issues with doing that because it was kind of a lifestyle at that point. So, yeah.
Love that. Well, thank y'all so much for sharing your background, and we'll be right back after this commercial break.
Poppin' shit, gotta get it. Niggas out here hating, but ain't stopping shit. Stop procrastinating, wasting time and shit. Niggas only gangster when they signing in. Hold on, baby, I can't hold on. So long, baby, I can't go.
Yo, Jay, hit me with that quote of the day.
You gotta put some ground behind that prayer. So what do you think of that?
What do I think of that? I think that, I feel like I'm gonna start quoting scripture because y'all got so spiritual.
I mean,
here. But like, there's a scripture that says, faith without works is dead. And that always, my mom would say that all the time. And it really resonated with me a lot because you can believe stuff all day. Like Chef has been saying, you can have your own plans. But if you're not working towards something, if you're not putting effort forth, if you're not, grinding and making things happen for yourself, you never know where, you don't know where you could end up. And, you have to create those doors and windows of opportunity for yourself. So that's really what that means to me.
So what does some challenges come with food blogging? How is the business side of that? Because it's like,
It's interesting.
with the it's like that grind. You still gotta pray from me. So it's like,
yeah, and it is a grind. I think people, and even I try to look at, that flip side of getting to go out, getting to meet really good people, getting to eat some of the best food, and like, that is a lot of fun. Like, I'm not gonna lie, it is so much fun. It's like, like I said, I love new experiences, love trying new things, but there is a lot of work behind it. The content creation, of course, is very time consuming. It can be fun, sometimes it's not because you just don't feel like making videos or taking pictures or editing them or whatever. So that's a piece, and you're doing a lot of things on the business side with brand deals, with networking. You're going and meeting people that, you may want to work with on the business end, but you might not connect on a personal level, and, deciding if all that's worth it. Working in or with restaurants, food and beverage, any industry really. I worked in all types of areas of corporate America. Scandals happen and crazy stuff happens, and you decide how you, as someone who either supports that restaurant or is friends with that person, is going to deal with that. So it's just a lot of moving pieces, and like I said, the time-consuming nature of it. The parties and dinners and stuff are great, but they do take up your evenings. If you have family or you have any sort of other commitments, that's something to consider. Creating the content, like, it's all day, 24/7. The weekends, sometimes if you're working on weekends, so it's like one of those around-the-clock things that I don't think people take into consideration, especially when you're starting out, because you're like, I'm just trying new food and throwing up a picture and throwing up a video, and then you actually see an opportunity to turn it into a business, to consult, to create content, to do brand deals, and then all of a sudden, it's like most of your life is spent, blogging or getting content or trying to figure out the next move. So
So we like grinding out over. You said you've been doing it for like 5 years now.
Yeah,
Right?
yeah.
How did it feel to get like your first brand deal or like your first partnership?
like
with
my
a company?
first paid brand deal felt really good. I think it came, I want to say like 2 years afterwards. I'd been offered stuff before that, but I remember wanting my first brand deal to be something that like I could really like relate to, and something that like something of course that paid well and just felt natural. So I didn't want to just do like any old thing. But I remember like seeing that brand deal and like being like, okay, this is a great fit. It was actually, believe it or not that I'm just like the biggest Dunkin' fan in the world, but it was Dunkin'. And for my job, I have to travel to Boston, or had to because it's COVID. I had to travel quite a bit to Boston. And during that time, like Boston, Massachusetts is like known for Dunkin', like, so there was like a Dunkin' on every corner, and like like I had to because it was like where we have Starbucks, they're Dunkin'. So I drank a lot of Dunkin', and I would always like post like my Dunkin' drink. So if I catered lunch for my lunch, if I had like breakfast meetings with my clients, I would get like the Dunkin' coffee and the donuts. So I always have pictures of it up there in my story. So when they did reach out for the opportunity, it was a really natural fit. It paid well, and it like had something to do with nurses. And my friend isn't like that I hadn't seen in a while as a nurse, so it was like a good story to tell with the brand deal and all of that. So it was really exciting, and like I said, it was a natural fit. It didn't seem cheesy or like I'm not a big fan of like a bunch of like there are a couple chain restaurants I like, but typically this sounds bad, but I'm not like a big Cheesecake Factory fan or whatever. So like when people like that reached out, I'd be like, oh, I can't just make up and pretend that I like Cheesecake Factory for a couple $100. Like I don't.
Right.
So I just wanted it to seem like something that I would actually do. So it was exciting. It was a natural fit, and then it kind of helped me frame like how I wanted to handle brand deals moving forward. In terms of like what I wanted to do, what was my price point, because I didn't know what to have people charge me, or like what to charge people, what a media kit, like they asked me like to give my media kit, my rates, like I didn't know what all that stuff was, so it kind of helped me form that. So it was exciting and like very educational to start.
It does sound exciting. So with like the ever-changing need of social media to be, I feel like social media right now is like, oh, I gotta be perfect, I gotta do this perfectly. How do you stay true to yourself and like stay true to your brand?
That is a good question, because like that, it really evolves. It evolves a lot, or at least it has for me. When I first started, it was really about like just sharing the places that I went. And like, I remember my slogan at the time was like, I only post like the good stuff or something like that. And it was like, I never like spoke badly about a restaurant or like said, like I only posted the things I really enjoyed. So if I went to a restaurant, I tried 5 things, I didn't like 2, people wouldn't hear about that 2, they would only hear about the 3 things that I did enjoy. And like, it's always been one of those things where I've been very honest and upfront about what I really enjoyed. I didn't want people like seeing my page, because there are bloggers. People always say, y'all lie, bloggers be lying. And some of it is true. Like I'll be sitting next to somebody, they'll be like, that's nasty. And then they'll post it, oh my God, like this is so good. And I'm like, no, I know you didn't like that. You literally just said it over dinner. So I was like, I think I know that guy. So it's been one of the things where I've always been honest. I've always shared the things that I did like. Moving forward, people, especially getting more of a following, people would always ask me, well, are there things that you don't like? You really seem to like everything. And I'm like, I don't like everything. I just post the things that I don't like. So I started moving into being a little bit more thorough, especially on Twitter with my reviews, and like talking about the service, talking about like the atmosphere, talking about maybe things I did like, maybe things that just weren't for me. But I'm still not like, this was disgusting, like I'll never have this again, sort of thing. So it kind of evolved, and like now I try to continue, like especially on my feed on Instagram, share like the atmosphere, share the experience, share what I liked specifically. And then like if I didn't like something, or I'll do like monthly recaps where I post at like all of the places that I've been, and if I didn't like an experience or something went wrong here, I didn't like something, it's always gentle, but I'll be like, I just, that wasn't for me, or like I didn't like that. So to give people a little bit of that full picture. So it has evolved from being like 100% everything I post is good to like a mix of it, but still, like I said, still very like diet critic. There's nothing like serious.
Yeah.
That's dope. That's dope. I'm kind of want to change gears and talk about what was that quote mean to you? 'Cause I know in that field, I know it's a lot of grind, but I know you be praying a lot too. Just make sure that food come out the way it's supposed to. You know what I'm saying?
That's a challenge, man. Yeah, as far as the quote, that's it means a lot. It's a powerful quote. But for me, yeah, like the hustle behind it all, and kind of like having the positive thoughts and the prayer, it's important. I do a lot of that. So with the everyday push that I have and the motivation and the drive, for me, yeah, it's a lot of kind of like, let me verify it, let me make sure that, the direction that I know that I want to go in, that I'm confirming it with like the higher power, with God, prayer, or even just being around positive people that kind of are like-minded. Mm-hmm. So if I'm around people that can push me, because I'm pushing somebody else, then that's cool for me, because now I'm like, yo, I ain't feeling it today, you know what I mean? Like, and Simone to tell you, like, she's been to the restaurant since day one, and her job is hard, and I only can imagine, because my job is hard, but her job is to let the world know, like, hey, it's a good thing, it's a bad thing, it's great, it's whatever, and kind of like still being a face where she's still being loved, you know what I'm saying? Exactly. And my job is kind of like, hey, you didn't like it, but not wearing my feelings on my shoulder because a person didn't care for that particular recipe. Mm-hmm. So like, it's very difficult, to not be in all of it. Like, so like, I really try to make sure my emotions are out, right? And then let my craft, let my, my skills kind of like do what they do. And then having a mind to know that everybody palate isn't the palate, exactly. So like Simone was talking about, Cheesecake Factory not her thing, you know what I'm saying? But then you have people that may come to Black Swan, they may have, a palate that may not speak to what my thought process was when I developed the recipe. Mm-hmm. So yeah, to be in a hustle mentality and then having, having a confirmation of like prayer and saying like, yo, I got that. Like I do that all day. Mm-hmm. Like I have to, you know what I'm saying? If not, I wouldn't make it.
Well, I want to start out by saying I want to let the world know that braised short rib.
It's coming off.
You said change the season.
That braised short rib is.
Unless I barbecued it and make you feel like it's more like 4th of July-ish kind of.
Divide.
Yeah.
It's very nice. Great.
Thank you. Yes. Appreciate it.
Nah. Told you that short rib different.
Oh, it's so good.
It's
my favorite.
Yeah.
Nah.
So I mean, like I said, change the season, so we might be able to bring that back somehow soon. But walk me through like a day-to-day as far as like getting to the restaurant and then preparing food and making sure you got the staff on board, making sure everything's on point before you. Sometimes I know you probably won't be there all the time, but you making sure everything's how you left it.
So day to day for the chef, Saon, for Black Swan, it really depends. Like when I get up, I can open up my phone and I can see that I may have 6-7 different emails. I can look at 20 different missed calls or text messages from anywhere from bartenders to my line cooks to prep cooks to management. So it's kind of being ahead of the curve. Mm-hmm. I always want to make sure I'm ahead of the curve. I do a lot myself too. So I don't have trust issues when it comes down to, can I trust my staff to do this? But day to day when I wake up, I'm already in a mindset that I got to get it done. Mm-hmm. I got to make it happen. Because, when you're dealing with different personalities and so many different people, sometimes people, they don't have the willpower to kind of continue to keep going. Yeah. But like being an owner, being a boss, being a leader, being a person that they're looking to always be in the right spirit, the right mindset, the right attitude. It's kind of like you have to always be on that, like, regardless, I gotta go. Now, the flip side is not always healthy, but my day-to-day, I get up, I look at everything, I check everything, I verify it all, I get in position, I make sure that things are where they're supposed to be and how they're supposed to be, and if not, I'll make the executive decision to say, okay, now I have to do this. I have to run to the restaurant store to grab something. I have to call my rep and say, hey, what happened? My order was short. So it's really like putting fires out sometimes, like, so I can be putting fires out from 7 o'clock in the morning until 12 noon. And then I can jump into the thick of things, with my team. But I'll be in there prepping. I'll be in there checking the walls, making sure that this is not there, looking at the chairs, do we have to paint this and touch up that? The computers are down, the internet is off, the phone's acting crazy, somebody came in late, several people called out, the dish machine just broke. So it's a lot, you know what I mean?
That whole management style right there.
Yeah, so my day-to-day is just, really kind of making an assessment, like when I get up, looking at the situation, figuring out what direction I'm gonna go in, and then having a positive thought about it.
It seems like you love it though, because I was like, all right, give me an assistant.
No, I do. I have support. Yeah, I have support. You know what I mean? I have a great supportive team. Like, my team is amazing, but everyone has a role. And then some people, we have several different roles. So when you're in ownership, when you're in leadership like that, you have to wear all of the hats, so it's difficult for me to just kind of like step back and be like, but it's the life of it though. I mean, I do love it. I mean, clearly.
Yeah, I can tell. Back to that dishwashing stuff.
I'm like, you have to have a love for it if you want to deal with all of that. That is a lot.
Every day.
I feel like on both ends though, you have to have a love for it. To
you do.
Take up pretty much all of your personal time, and then to be managing everybody and their mama and the whole restaurant. You have to have a passion for it. That ain't something you can just be like, I'm gonna go day to day and be.
Wake up like that, phone ring. Shit.
Right, I know. I could definitely relate to all the text messages and all the emails and looking at your calendar and seeing the millions of things you got to do and be like, all right, let me just get through this first and then start my day.
Exactly.
It's like that.
So how do both of y'all find balance?
That's rough.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna lie.
Right.
I mean, like on my end, it's rough. Like, like my balance is where it gets to a point where you're so used to certain things that, if it's not there, you all know, if you go to school all the time and you go to school and you've been doing it for so long and you got your degrees now, and then when you're finished college, it's kind of like, I'm so used to like, boom, boom, boom. What do I do with my time? So then you try to fill that void. So I think for me, how I balance, for me, is kind of like getting the joy of, say if Simone came down, and I know she's coming down, and we have a great conversation, the food was great, everything worked out, it wasn't nothing like not too good, right? That is my balance. Now I'm like, you know what, my work is done for today. I crossed that path, I jumped that hurdle, and now I can feel good about if I did take off that night and had dinner and did this. That's kind of like, I think it's day to day with me. But it's hard to kind of say like, I'm taking off this day, that day, that day. I'm going on vacation, I'm doing this, I'm doing that. I have a regular day, 9 to 5. Nah, never.
Yeah, especially when I'm on your day just don't stop.
Yeah.
Don't stop. Especially I know with you, your day don't stop. So.
No, it really does. It never stops. I wouldn't say, like Chef, I would not say that I had like a perfect balance or even anything close to that. But I've been trying to do a better job about taking like small breaks. For myself, especially when like the meetings don't stop, the consulting doesn't stop, people like texting and calling for different things, partnerships, whatever, definitely doesn't stop. But I do, and I want to answer those people, I want to talk to those people, I want to network with those people, but I do take breaks when it comes to like Instagram or Twitter or like different types of content creation. If it's like outside of a brand partnership or something scheduled, sometimes I'll just be like, oh, the video's not going up today. And, it's just, we'll reconvene next week. Or like I had this big push where I posted 100 Black-owned restaurants and food businesses for Black History Month. And that was like nonstop every day. And like this month, I'm like, okay, I'm gonna post 3 times a week versus like posting every day, posting laundry lists of restaurants and things like that. So
That was great, by the way.
thank you,
Yeah,
thank you. It was a lot of fun.
Yeah.
So that's kind of how I get in breaks, and then I book vacations. Like I'm big on booking trips. We got Portugal coming up. Ooh, we got Antigua. So
Nice.
yeah, spring and summer's gonna be fun.
Key of the word is get that money. Don't let it stop.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I mean, like I said, this was like crazy, like the balance, like the whole nonchalant, like cause I know me, like I'm a business owner too, but as far as like what y'all do, I feel like that's like next level. That's what I see myself doing. I know Jim can speak for himself too with his stuff. So
Y'all building like, I know, so y'all, like during your day, I know for me, I have to build in a break. Like if I don't give myself a break, I tend to like forget to eat. I'll be up to like midnight and I'll sleep, like stuff like that. So do y'all like building times throughout your day to get a break or just get a step away or do something like that? Just to take care of yourself for a second, then get back to it.
I mean, I do. Like Simone said, learning to be able to add those little breaks in there. You have to like kind of like teach yourself to do that.
Yes.
And as wild as it is, being a hard worker and kind of like being passionate and committed to what you do in your craft, especially when you came from the ground up. That's another thing too. Some people may be handed some things and they already got it factored in because they were handed it. Mm-hmm. But when you're like building things from the ground up, and it's kind of like you only know, like, bro, when I get up, this is what I do, this is how I go. It's kind of hard, and it's kind of hard to like step away. Right. And like I said, it's not so much that I don't trust it or the people. It's just more so that for me, I'm so used to it that I gotta stay there. Mm-hmm. So I'm doing better with building in like breaks here and there, and then segueing over to this and over to that. So
yes.
I guess, same thing. I do try to build in time for breaks. Sometimes it doesn't happen. Sometimes I forget to eat. And, obviously my world is food. So going to lunches and dinner is a part of my week. So, those sorts of things are built in. But as far as breaks, I do take time. I might do like a little walk or something like that. Or like after a phone call, I always need to like decompress. So I'll take like 10 minutes or something just to like lay across the couch, or like I said, like sit there, like go for a walk or fit in an evening TV show or something to read. So they're always quick, but I do try to like squeeze in breaks because you just need to recenter.
Well, speaking of breaks, I'll be right back.
Poppin' shit, gotta get it. Niggas out here hating, but ain't stopping shit. Stop procrastinating, wasting time and shit. Niggas only gangster when they signing in. Hold on, baby, I can't hold on. So long, baby, I can't.
Alright, so I know I said the braised short rib was my favorite item on the menu, even though you said it's not gonna be there anymore. What's your favorite thing on the menu?
Well, not for the spring.
For the spring, excuse me. What is your favorite thing on the menu?
Wow, what is my favorite item on the menu? I'll go apps, and then I'll do entrees. So for the apps, I think my favorite, believe it or not, is the barbecue Korean cauliflower.
Really?
It's vegan, and I'm not a vegan at all. But I have a joy of making vegan food or any kind of food that I don't consume. Mm-hmm. So that would be my favorite is apps. Entree, I think my favorite is the branzino, and it's with the cucumber blanc. And has the olive oil, purple mashed potatoes, no cream, but just olive oil and sea salt. They're my 2 favorites.
I'm hungry.
Boy,
I'm hungry.
I'm over here growling.
Right. Talk about some of the like celebrities you have met so far as far as like since you have the restaurant now, like people that have been coming through the restaurant showing support and stuff like that.
Yeah, I'm really bad with names. I'm not gonna lie, and I'm not, I just don't throw names out there and kind of get too hyped about it. Yeah. I'm very appreciative though of all of the people that came in that are celebrities. But Angelique, she came in the other day most recently. Mm-hmm. What's the other guy?
I seen Jada Kiss came through.
Yeah, Jada, Fabulous.
Fabulous came.
Yeah.
Who did?
That's a fact.
Yeah,
Fab.
for the CIAA
It's
weekend.
been a lot of actors and things that came through as well. A lot of politicians.
Athletes.
Athletes, a lot of athletes. I mean, you know, Lamar, you know, he came through. Hollywood, you know, from the Ravens. A lot of Ravens came through. Some, I think an Oreo came. It's been a lot, man. It's been a lot of support.
Yeah, so talk about like expansion. I know Black Swan is Baltimore based, but I know knowing you now, I know you thinking global. You trying to take over the whole world right now.
I mean, so first of all, it's been a blessing to even have the support that we've been having, you know, from our city, number one, and from the outskirts of the DMV. A lot of people from Philadelphia, Virginia, you know, DC, you know, it's been great, right? And we really appreciate it. I appreciate it, my partners. But I think expansion-wise, we definitely have been looking into going into DC. You know, we're looking into some other places that we may not want to talk about.
Can't talk about it.
But DC is our next move, and we also have some other concepts that we're going to do outside of Black Swan. So Black Swan is really just like, you know, it's our bread and butter, it's our baby. You know, it started with it, the foundation, but we have other concepts that we're going to do that's going to actually appease to who we are as a culture. We want to make sure that how we did Black Swan was just, you know, having something, a void that we felt that the people needed in our city that they did not have.
Yeah.
So we definitely going to expand.
And especially in that area, like it's hard. Like that's all Atlanta. Like what's that place? Atlantis Group. Atlas Group. So it's kind of hard to even get in there because it's owned by all of that.
So Foreman Wolf, like there's those two restaurant chains that are just there.
So you in like the heart where you like people drive past. It's like boom.
So that's another thing. Like we were very fortunate and blessed to be able to, during the pandemic, you know, and it was unfortunate that a lot of people lost their businesses during that time. But you know, we were able to actually create something that's very special, you know, for the city in that particular area. So Harvey East is a very upcoming, prominent like area, and to be a Black-owned restaurant in Harvey East is really what elevated, you know, things about the restaurant. So the food's elevated, the atmosphere is a different spin on it. It was definitely an honor to be down in that area.
Shoot, we can go straight to you now. You know, the hot people right here. I know she got some killer questions for you. I'm just gonna get that way.
I'm ready.
Yes. So I'm not even from the Baltimore area, so I'm not from the DMV. So what would you tell somebody that's traveling to Baltimore? Where is they have to go to this place?
I don't know if I could pick one place. And like, I hate answering like this question for like people in my DMs because I'm like, what do you like? I don't want to tell you because my brain is always on seafood, but I'm like, are you allergic? So I can tell you like some really consistently good restaurants that I've been to like over the years or like since I started food blogging, and then some like good up and coming spots that like I've been to, and I keep seeing improvements, and every time I go it's better and better. But one of my favorite restaurants, and this is before the food blog, before Harbury's, all of that, is Maggie's Farm, and it's a spot on Hartford Road. They were like one of the first, I won't say the first, but one of the first restaurants to like do farm to table, so the ingredients are super fresh. Everything's very local, so like you can really taste the difference in that food. Like things are like fresh, if not flash frozen, so you don't get that weird freezer burn that you can sometimes get on some people's food. So I love Maggie's Farm. Blue Moon is like a Baltimore staple for breakfast. They have this egg and crab thing called the Sweet Baby Jesus. It's really good. People love their Captain Crunch French toast. Their food is just really good. They used to be late night, which I miss. They used to be 24 hours, but now they're like a true breakfast spot. What else? I'll just stick with those two, like for like the consistently good spots that I've been.
So what about drinks then?
For drinks,
I see you post something the other day, had a little flower and a little drink. I don't know what it's called.
Yeah. Oh, that was the new B-side. So there's a hotel in Baltimore, and they have different concepts. Like upstairs, they have Topside, which you can overlook the entire like Mount Vernon, Baltimore area, and it's like nice views, and you can eat in there and they have drinks. But downstairs they have a karaoke rooms that you can rent, and then a speakeasy. So you like put a coin in like a jukebox, and like a secret wall opens up, and it's really cute. And they have the craft cocktails are really good. Baltimore now has like, especially when I started, they had good bartenders, like creative folks, but like the drink scene has really like skyrocketed in the city. So like, I feel like now that I'm going to these places, like the standard are those craft cocktails. So I really love that. That place was good. Also really like Bluebird Cocktail Room.
That's my spot.
They're in Hampden. They do like really good craft cocktails. Something a little bit more casual, but still like good drinks is Shipyard Pub. That bartender there makes some really good drinks and creative at a good, really nice price point for everybody. As far as like up and coming, I tried a bunch of spots last month, but I really like this spot called Locale downtown. It's like Black owned, and they do French food. The chef used to work at a couple of French restaurants. He's professionally trained in French cuisine. But he is a Black guy, so he like makes it just a little bit more soulful, kind of puts a little bit more flavor into the food. So it was really, really good. They're really new, so they have some like things to work out, like as far as their staff, but the food is like solid. I will put Black Swan. Black Swan is it a year old? It's under a year old.
We're coming up on
May
May 14th.
So as like one of those up and coming spots, because like I said at the beginning, like those spots you go to, and it's always improvement every time you go. It's better and better. Black Swan is definitely one of those places. That short rib, I was getting every time I was going there.
Block
so good. I would say even the chicken box. When I just went there and had that chicken box, I was like, I forgot how good this was. I hadn't had it in a bit. The drinks are always
I was about to get
strong
into
too.
that too. I was about to get into
The
that.
drinks.
How do you think of those names? Like, those some nice
Yeah,
like hood
those
names.
drinks
Like,
are
those
so good.
Me and my partner, we collab with that. We the mastermind about behind a lot.
Yeah.
He probably don't even want me to say his name. But I already put him under the bus. So Chris Simon, that's my ace, man. But we brainstorm a lot.
Yeah.
So like Simone was saying, everybody's saying like the chicken box and call a hack. We got hack. We got the hack and
Pretty with an attitude.
That's my drink. I love that drink.
Yeah.
I just want to say, like, your French toast and brunch is default, immaculate. I was like, yo, what y'all putting
That
in?
brunch is really
I appreciate
good.
it.
That brunch is really good.
Sometimes it's like, and it's just like the simple things, less is more.
It is.
Trust me, that's all I need right there.
It's the bread. I have a great bread that I use. I use challah bread. So I use the challah, and then I make a nice mixture of very heavy egg mixture for my French toast batter. I use real ingredients for it. I only use farm eggs, and then we take our time and we sear it off good, and I make a nice little anglaise to go on top when we finish it with the maple vanilla syrup.
Yeah.
That's what you had last.
That's what I had.
It's simple. It's simple. You know what I mean?
Speaking of that, like, when you walk in there, it's like the vibe is just on point. You got the DJ, you got the bottle service. Like, how the bottle service starts? They remind me like you in the club and they just out there with the lights and
Right.
whatever.
So going back with the whole bottle service thing. First of all, it was certain things that I didn't even want. Let's just be clear.
Yeah.
But the bottle service, being a full service restaurant versus like a lounge or a club, that's the difference. We are still a full service restaurant. So, the way we want to do it and the way we do it is allow the bottle service to come to your table where you're eating dinner, not at a couch, not at a place where, so I don't know, like we try to keep it as tasteful as possible.
Yeah.
And I think that's my main thing, like keeping it tasteful. So it's very thought out. We got the bird cage, so
facts.
it's kind of like we want to, be authentic, be original, but not be too, the other way.
Oh yeah, I know for my birthday we had a couple of bottles came through. I did not approve of, but I ain't, you know what I mean?
Not you didn't approve.
Yeah.
It's your birthday. We gotta turn up for you.
Yeah,
Right.
I was already cool off the one, but then two more came, and I was like, yo, I just need to just chill out for a bit. It's Sunday, you feel me?
Okay.
Yeah.
It's a lot.
Yeah, it was too much going on. Speaking of that, like, I want to piggyback off what you said. So, you've been in certain spots and stuff. Like, what are some cool like lounging spots where you can like chill, feet up, couple drinks,
Yeah, because
little mini food? Because he don't go out
clubs.
He don't do nothing. So
Like jazz lounges and stuff like
Yeah.
that. That's kind of my
Yeah,
my thing.
lounges are tough. I will say it's not even a lounge atmosphere, but I recently, like 2 days ago, I went to Keystone Corner in Harbor East, and they actually do, like, you can pay for tickets to, like, renowned jazz musicians. It's right in Harbor East, too. And, you sit back, you have a couple, it was nice. I haven't been in, like, 2 years, but you sit back and listen to the jazz musicians, like, live music. The food and drinks were delicious. Like, they were very, very good. So that's probably one of the spots that I would pick for like lounge vibes. I can't think of any others off the top of my head that don't cross over into like a crazy like party scene. So
yeah, 'cause I'm trying to find
But-
stuff for him to come out the house.
Keystone Corner, if you like jazz, you'll love that place. I'd gone like twice before COVID, like the whole pandemic. And I remember it being nice, but I hadn't been since then, and I forgot. And it was such a nice atmosphere, like a very like mixed crowd, like diversity across ages and race and everything, and just everybody just sitting back, enjoying the music, having their cocktails. Some people like got up and danced a little bit. Like it was so cute.
That's so cute.
For her, she like to dance. I need stuff.
All right.
Those some spots where you can get up and like for her.
All right.
Yeah.
What kind of dance?
Let's
Because I'm like,
Megan Thee Stallion.
no.
because I'm like, is it a
Don't listen
place
to
where
him.
you
No.
are
'Cause he
supposed to
tryna-
be getting up and dancing,
He
or
tryna
you
put
just
me-
get up and dance? Because Rose's Bar and Grill in
He
Fed
tryna
Hill
put
is
me
one of
out.
those spots that like people do get up and dance. I don't know if you're necessarily supposed to, but like nobody cares. And the food is really good. Their food is like amazing.
I know how to act simple right now. I think you're trying to.
I mean, hey, however you have fun is how you have fun.
Any places you can go like, they're gonna call me old, but like hand dancing. Any places like that.
What?
Don't judge me.
Shut
Not
up.
that I know of. Probably that place Keystone Corner. There used to be a place that did like salsa nights and
that's
stuff.
just-
They closed down. So if I find any though, I'll let you know.
Do you have any new places on your list that you're waiting to try or dying to try?
I just made a reservation for the new No Way Rosé. It's this restaurant that just opened up in Federal Hill, and the owner there has another restaurant in the city in DC, Bethesda, called Duck Duck Goose, and so he did a new concept, and I guess it's all about rosé and like more French cuisine and all of that. So I'm really excited to try that place because it's cute. It's like trendy, and like the restaurant's real pretty, and his food is usually good. Like I've been to a couple of his events, and the food's always been good. So I'm really excited to try that spot. I like seeing more elevated concepts because Baltimore definitely has good food. And we definitely have it across price points. But where people always ding me, at least online, is like, where's the fine dining? Like, where are the elevated spots? So like, I like seeing more of those kind of pop up around.
Yeah, people want the IG aesthetic.
Yeah, they want the IG aesthetics, and they want IG aesthetics with good food. 'Cause,
Yes.
like sometimes
It'd be cute, but
yeah, right. Sometimes.
So what's next for Black Swan then? As far as like, I know I kind of asked a little bit about what's like like next for like Black Swan.
I mean, next to Black Swan, we're changing the menu. I'm actually getting ready to finalize the spring and summer menu. We're definitely expanding, with another location, other concepts, food trucks. We got a lot that we're gonna do.
Food truck.
So you'll be able to get a chicken box on the food truck anywhere.
That'd be cool.
That would be cool.
I
Out
love a
here,
food truck.
out there, DC, Delaware, everywhere, we're gonna load up.
Dope.
But I think more merch. I have on my Black Swan shirt under here, but more merch, more hats, things where we just can make our name known even more. Where people can say, "I like that," and so.
Shoot, man. Like I said, man, this been dope. I appreciate both of y'all coming through.
Thank you.
Before we get up out of here, can y'all drop y'all social media handles so everybody can follow what's going on, see what y'all following next. We can start with Simone first.
You can follow me anywhere at Charm City Table. It's like all one word. I'm on Instagram mostly, Twitter, TikTok, and you can go on my website, charmcitytable.com, for this really cool Baltimore DMV restaurant map, where I have like all the places that I've been and links to like my reviews and stuff on there. So it's like really cool if you're like staying in the city or you live in a neighborhood and want to find places in your area. Well, it's called Baltimore Restaurant Map.
Nice. I gotta follow that. So
Right.
for me, I don't have as much as like Simone, but my little simple IG is Chef 600. So CHEF and the number 600. Or you can go to Eat at Black Swan. You can get me there as well. Other than that, my Twitter, I don't know what it is anymore. My TikTok, I do have a TikTok, but you will have to DM me that so I can give you the information because I have like a couple videos, but that's it. Yeah.
That's right.
Like I said, I appreciate you coming by. And this is That Boy Got Knowledge. We're closing out.
I just wanna spend my life with you all day. You say that you love me, is it true? You say I'm the only one that's all for you. Okay, make me feel away, make me feel away. Shawty so damn dangerous, fuck me like I'm famous, yeah. I've been so impatient, so glad that you made it here. Took my dick and faced it, shawty going crazy, yeah. Thought that you was playing, so me spray it everywhere. She want me to take it, what you tryna do? Shawty said